India generates over 50% of its new power capacity from renewables. Yet, actual clean energy use is just 22%. This is a massive gap threatening the country's climate goals. The problem? Grid bottlenecks, storage challenges, and too few bankable projects to attract the needed investment. Woochong Um, CEO of the Global Energy Alliance for People and Planet, is trying to fix this. His team launched India's first utility-scale battery storage in Delhi, cutting blackouts and unlocking 8,000 megawatts of new capacity. By using concessional capital to de-risk pioneering projects, Woochong is proving that India's power problems can actually become global blueprints for clean energy transition. Listen on, it's Tuesday, the 17th of February. I'm Anirban Chowdhury. This is the Morning Brief. Woochong, very warm welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much for inviting.
Let's start with 3 reasons why India is such a theatre of consequence for the Alliance.
The work we do in the Global Energy Alliance is to make sure that everybody in the world has access to affordable and reliable clean energy. And also people who get that energy know how to use it in a productive way so that they can actually improve their lives. The India in particular is very important because it's a very important testbed for us to do innovative, groundbreaking work here because of the high quality skills and people, and also the very strong government support to do green growth in the future. So India is a perfect place for us to make an impact, but also the lessons learned we can replicate to other places.
Now, there are many problems in the power sector that people are talking about, be it the grid reliability or the financial health of discoms or the storage problem. What is one problem that people are not talking about that the Alliance wants to attack or has been sort of tackling?
The one, I wouldn't call it problem, I would say challenges,
Right.
is coordination across different players. Whether it's a discom to other utilities, even the people they're using, everybody has to come together to see what we can do. So in the case of battery storage, there's not enough knowledge of the latest development of battery storage. So, in the past, people thought about renewable energy as not something they can use as a base load. They always thought that base load is for fossil fuel.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the reliability. But in the past 10 years, the development in the battery storage technology and the price that has become so competitive that now it's as equivalent to the fossil fuel in terms of reliability, because it doesn't require sort of operations cost or the fuel cost that in the long run, it's actually much cheaper too. So what we do is we make sure that everybody's aware of the opportunity of using the renewable energy battery storage to provide the baseload electricity to people, and making sure that the information is available to the right people for the operating data so that they can come up with a proper benchmarking of the information that's needed so that the investors, when they come in, they can properly price it. So working across many different players and making sure that the correct information is provided and also demonstrated impact of the work that we can do is kind of help calm down the investors' anxiety in terms of the money that they're putting in.
So what would assuage the investors' fears? Because it is true that there is limited ROI in renewable in this country.
So, the money that's needed to transform this whole country is into trillions, like the $22 trillion that's needed. And you pull together all the resources that's official, the government, largely, you can come up to like 16 trillion, but the remaining 6 trillion needs to come from elsewhere. Basically, that means you need the public sector resources as well as the private sector resources. In order for that to happen, you need the right kind of pipeline of projects that can be developed. Going back 20 years, you hear the publications about the developing Asia needing trillions of dollars of money. But when you talk to the bankers or investors, they say there are no projects. So where is the gap? That basically means that there are many projects with the blueprint, but not enough bankable projects. That means that each project needs to have enough information on it, the technological information, but also whether it's the environmental social impact that's due diligence is properly done, and then the costing that's needed, and then how much tariff you can charge and what is the revenue flow, and all the information has to come in. So once it's there, then it becomes bankable. Then the investors can decide whether or not they can come in using different types of instruments.
Right. And would you say the sector is getting more bankable?
It's getting more realistic in terms of getting to the bankability, but still, this renewable stage is still a new area of investment. So when you actually get anybody to put their money into any investment, if it's the first of its kind, it's the perceived risk that they have a hard time swallowing. So what we try to do is work with different players and deploying some philanthropic capital. Our money is not as much as the development finance institutions or multilateral development banks, but it's a very powerful money because our money is flexible, and we can help buy down the cost of some of the risks that's associated there. But something that's most difficult to address is the perceived risk because it's the first of its kind. The only way to address that is demonstrated that it's not as risky as people might think.
Right. Woochong, tell me about the Alliance's first major success in India, which is the battery energy storage system in Colloquy, Delhi. Tell me, what made this pilot so transformative?
So this project we're doing in Delhi, where we are first time commercial utility scale battery storage that's integrated into the grid. So it's in a crowded district in Delhi where they have electricity capacity, which is already exceeded.
Mm-hmm.
So the choice is either people have blackouts in certain time of the day, or you have to increase the capacity. But somebody brilliant came with an idea of using the battery storage to store electricity during the off-peak time.
Right.
So that idea, of course, is the first in kind. But then when you actually start to install the physical, the battery storage into the grid, there are a lot of regulatory work that has to be done. So again, this is not a technically difficult thing to do, but because it's going through the regulatory process, people were reluctant to kind of move forward. So when we worked with the local utility and the developers, we came up with a plan to prepare like a playbook of how to do this. So it took really fast, like less than 20 months for the actual work to be done. And then kind of we handheld all the players out there to go through the regulatory approval process to demonstrate it can be done relatively short period of time. So once we achieved the financial close, there were several others who were kind of observing to see whether they can do the same thing. And
So blackouts declined by a certain percentage?
so by 30%, it's been,
Okay.
yeah. So it's groundbreaking work because without any new generation, we were able to meet the needs of the, demand of the people in that area.
What is the importance of concessional capital in such projects, and especially keeping in mind the Colloquy project?
So again, it's a new activity. So
Right.
people do need to be trained on the work itself. But also there's a risk associated to uncertainty. So there's a first mover premium that has to be priced into the whole investment. So the concessional money is needed to buy that down, to give incentive for the people to be able to come up and do something new. So the two aspects, buying down the cost of extra risk and also the cost of the training at the working level.
Tell me something. You said that other Indian states have been sort of inspired and they were observing what you were doing. What kind of progress have you made with other states? Are there projects afoot And of course, also tell me about the kind of investment. I believe the number is $46 million. Is that the updated number, or are you investing more? But first, of course, tell me about other states that they're
No,
adopting.
so I saw a map of whole country with different dots showing World Bank, ADB, JICA, and others,
Right.
all looking, but not moving forward until we finished, because they're all gearing up to implement something similar. So it's kind of countrywide, and funding sources from different places and developers as well. So I'm pretty confident that this will move pretty quickly now that we have actually completed one successful example. And beyond that, actually, I'm hoping that this example would help us fuel expansion of this solution in other countries as well.
So is India the first country that you...
Actually, in South Asia, this is the first utility scale that's done, but it's triggering a lot of interest in other places also. So we are working on similar kind of projects, like in Vietnam and in Asian region, but also in the other continents, in Africa, in Malawi, and Latin America, and the Caribbean, especially in some of those remote areas where they need the battery storage to be integrated into the grid and off-grid as well. India has already achieved over 50% of the new installed capacity of renewable energy. All of the installed capacity of energy is from renewable source.
Right.
But the actual use and generation is only about 22%.
Right. Oh, that's
And
a huge gap.
Yeah, so there's a huge gap. And we address this by integrating as much renewable energy into the grid. And second is to install battery storage so that you can address the renewable energy, the variability of solar and wind and so forth. And then third is we are pilot testing in the state of Rajasthan this thing called the digitized utilities for energy transition. It's digitizing a grid and using an AI app that's locally developed to identify where the leakages are, where the supply excess is, where's the renewable energy sources being idle, and you can actually activate it. So that actually can increase the efficiency by 30%.
All right.
So that means you can actually reduce the CO2 emission as well by 30% because you're not requiring additional generation, especially with fossil fuel. So those things combined is what we're calling the grids of the future. And again, this is a global initiative.
But the test bed is India.
Yes. So tomorrow we are launching this coalition, the Grids of the Future Coalition for India, in India during the Mumbai Climate Week.
Right.
So that we can again move as quickly as possible to demonstrate that this can be possible and beneficial. The second pillar is what we call the energy and opportunity. So energy is the bridge to prosperity for everybody. We have electricity used for everything, but there are a lot of people, over 1 billion of people who do not have electricity, which means their day-to-day lives are so much more inefficient than what we experience. So that energy and opportunity is the nexus of energy and different sectors, energy and agriculture, energy and water and education and health and fisheries and so forth, so that you can make the lives of the farmers and fisher folks so much more productive by creating more jobs.
Tell me about job creation. I think this is one area also where the Alliance is working on how renewable energy projects create jobs. What kind of success have you achieved? What are the ideas that are really working? How supportive are the governments?
Yeah, so in the global sense, our ambition by 2030 is to create 150 million jobs
Across the
globally,
world.
right, all across the world. But what does that mean? So when we talk about doing a project, creation of job are the ones that are directly related to the project itself. So when you're installing solar panels, obviously someone's got to do that, right?
Yep.
So jobs that's associated to that. But for us, the bigger impact is that the job that gets created as a result of the economic vibrancy that electricity will provide. Let's say in the rural area here, again, we went to Lucknow. We talked to some farmers and also other women who are actually were getting electricity that's much more stable, which they can use to process their agriculture, crops, and so forth. So when you do those things, it creates job opportunity for the businesses by the way that electricity creates business. So our vision is to capture all of them, not just the job that gets created by the workers who actually install solar panel, but then the job that gets created further down the line, which could be much, much bigger.
Is there an India number as to the job creation that will happen because of these initiatives?
Based on our projected work that's happening, we are on track to generate 2.2 million jobs by 2030. But I'm hoping that number will be higher in reality.
Okay. Tell me something. The first bit of direct job creation that you spoke about in setting up the infrastructure, do you see a skill gap in India, and how do you think it will be solved?
The skill gap for those kind of installation should not be very big.
Okay.
But there could be some work to be done, especially if you're looking at new technology, like the AI. A skills building is always needed when you move into any kind of transition anyway. So that's something that we are keeping a very close attention so that there's enough workers with the right skills who can actually deliver the ambitions that we set out to do.
Got it. You spoke about AI. I mean, India is trying to be an AI pioneer, and one way it's trying to do that is by setting up data centers. And we all know that data centers are huge guzzlers of power. And we are a power-sapped country, right? Which side of the debate are you on?
Well, people talk about AI as the user of electricity, right? And that's sucking up all the electricity.
Yeah.
But as I mentioned, that we are actually trying to use AI to provide more electricity. So we need to scale up the latter part. How can we really harness the AI itself so that energy system can be much more efficient? And again, it's our society as we develop, technology development will happen at the same time. It's a race between time and technology development. So right now, I think AI use of electricity is dominating, but I'm sure human society will develop something that will address that problem.
Right. No, but you spoke about energy empowerment for people, right? And that should be the priority. But when you talk about that allocation, shouldn't data centers be much lower in
even the priority for the use of electricity, they should be deprioritized.
Yeah.
A lot of these data centers have their own dedicated power generation facilities anyway.
Sure.
So the people who do not have electricity somewhere in the remote areas, especially, they're not really affected by this data center issue. They don't have access to the grid. So the way to address their needs is not so much about reducing the use by the data center, but
it's not that direct, but I'm just saying more priorities.
Showing the technological solutions that the people who do not have access to grid in the remote areas can have access to electricity using the distributed renewable energy and battery storage. And for them to be shown how that energy can be used to improve their lives by improving their farming practices and milling practice or cold storage for fisher folks is what we need to do more of.
Sure. Final question, Woochong, and since we're talking 2030 as sort of a target here for a lot of your ambitions, what is broadly the most important energy reform in India that would matter by 2030? And how is, of course, the alliance playing a role in that?
I wouldn't say reform, but it's more of the attitude of the government officials, the private sector, even philanthropies, to want to work with each other much more. In a way, our vision as Alliance is to bring partnership across different players who are unlikely to work together before. Yeah. So the reform in the mindset of radical collaborating across public, private, and philanthropic partnership is what we need to achieve in the next few years.
Thank you, Woochong, for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Woochong Um's thesis is straightforward. Clean energy transitions will not succeed without coordination between governments, investors, and philanthropies. The Delhi battery pilot demonstrated this, cutting blackouts by storing off-peak power, then becoming a template for other states and countries. The alliance projects 2.2 million jobs by 2030 and targets efficiency gains that reduce emissions without new generation. The success of this model will depend on replicating the conditions that made the Delhi pilot work, which is flexible capital willing to fund solutions that are yet unproven. That's it for today. You were listening to this episode on The Morning Brief. It was produced by Vinay Joshi and Rajas Nayak, sound designed by Amrit Reggie. A new episode of The Morning Brief drops every Tuesday, Thursday and Friday, wherever you get your podcasts. Stay tuned.